My brain is always constantly like thinking what can I do next? Like it's constantly giving me ideas, keeping me motivated, and the role that I'm in now for this is absolutely perfect.
The ADHD, because it's so highly functional and it allows me to picture things in a very high function way. If I go into a BA job and it could be a complex building, I will be able to, with my eyes closed, obviously in the pitch black, be able to visualise every single thing within that room, where the sofa is, remember it, change of direction, and I will be able to draw it pretty much identical to the plans that would be inside. And that's always been a strength of mine within the fire service.
I think ADHD has, the way it's shown in me is that I can look at huge amounts of information. And I'm really good with visual information. So as a police officer, lots of people talking to me at once, with my children, all of them asking me questions at once, juggling multiple tasks. And I'm very often able to get to the point, to get to the crux of what needs to be done. I'm good at decision making. I'm good at taking in lots of information and simplifying it for other people. And I also have really strong verbal reasoning skills. And as a police officer, I've always found that being able to talk to people, communicate with people, find a way to communicate with people, even when it's really challenging, has been one of my strengths and continues to be. So I think those skills have massively helped me as a firearms commander, in that I can look at huge amounts of information, very fast moving jobs with lots of changes, lots of things to juggle simultaneously, and to be able to take that in, make sense of them, put them in a structure, and then brief other people to that. And that skill is used lots of different ways in policing and running operations, in managing incidents. I find it harder sometimes to put that into paper, but then there are loads of tools available to me to help me do that. So for example, I dictate lots of my reports and I dictate lots of the work that I do, and that translates my verbal reasoning into a written document. So it's something that's easily overcome in terms of working.
When people hear about different sort of dyslexia, ADHD, there's not a real understanding of it. And I think opening up about it and giving the employers a better understanding of it definitely helps to kind of gauge for future employment opportunities for people.
I did massively struggle through school. Struggled to read, struggled to write, concentrate as well. Naughty, I guess, but I was never intentionally naughty. I was just could never concentrate.
I struggled hugely with learning to read and write, to the point that the school were talking about holding me back a year, it's quite a challenge. It was a challenge for me at the time. I don't think my parents made a big deal of it, but I come from a really academic family and with very, very clever, very talented siblings as well. And I think that the hardest part was that some of the lasting memory of that has been that for a long time I questioned whether or not I was thick, whether or not there was a problem with me academically, whether there was a problem with my intelligence. I didn't seem to struggle in some areas. I can hold my own in terms of things like I was captain of a debate club at school, and I was able to discuss things, but it didn't always translate into academic success. And I often felt that I was having to concentrate exceptionally hard, work incredibly hard to obtain average results. And I just didn't feel, it felt like I just didn't really understand the trick. It felt like there was a knack to doing this and I just couldn't quite reach it.
Learning at an older age that actually those may have led to being part of my dyslexia and ADHD, and that's all I wanted to be as a kid, just I suppose a naughty firefighter running into burning buildings.
I'm problem solving all the time in my role to think of solutions to situations that people call us about that are ongoing. So my brain's constantly thinking, what can I do? Have I got this option? So definitely, I think for me in my role with ADHD, my brain is just loving life because it's just constantly working away, finding solutions and, talking to people, which is what I love to do.
Breaking down that barrier of what ADHD is in adulthood is definitely something that needs to be pushed forward, because it's not the case, and with late diagnosis, you sort of have loads of coping mechanisms to not be this hectic person, although your brain is functioning at quite a high level.
Working with people and helping them to understand the world around them, helping to look after them, and that actually it was incredibly rewarding for me in a way that I'd never really got from academia in itself. And I get to work now nationally with lots of different groups around diversity, because it's led me to a passion for how do we include people, how do we include all sorts of difference. And I think ADHD is really, or an ADHD mindset is really aligned to that, because it asks about barriers and difference and including people, and it finds creative and new ways to do that.
The one bit of advice I'd give my younger self is definitely not to be influenced by other people's opinions of you can't do it, when clearly when you put your mind to it and put the hard work into it, you definitely can.
If everybody thought the same, we would never break bias. We would never look at new routes. We would never get creative and innovation. We just stick with tried and tested. And I would extend that across all the difference within the police service. It is the argument for having difference at every possible level across every strand of diversity. And because there is such a huge range of roles in these organisations, there will be a place where you are just perfect, where you excel in the brilliance that you bring, the difference that you bring, where you can apply the way in which your mind works to something where you really make a contribution to the public.
If I'm on an incident, suddenly the bells go down, I'm at that job, if it's highly pressured or highly stressed, I feel like something just clicks inside my brain, and I'm not this person that may be daydreaming. Everything just flows, all the information that I may not normally be able to gather from the back of my brain just starts.
There is a real opportunity to contribute as well. You know, it isn't an organisation for sitting quietly in the corner. We hear people's voices, we can engage them, and we've got brilliant staff networks as well.
It can be done. I've done it. I've got ADHD and here I am.
Lots of people think because you've got, say, ADHD, you can't be a police officer. That's not true. In fact, some of the best officers thrive because they've got ADHD. The fast-paced world of response, going from job to job, keeping that it's new, actually benefits people with ADHD massively.
So some of the strengths of ADHD are around hyperfocus. Someone with ADHD who is passionate about a subject will be really passionate about a subject. They be creative, they are resilient, they have incredible resilience in their life, and they have energy, and they are able to give energy to projects, they are able to give energies to groups, and that's incredibly valuable. Our workplace specifically is we're part of the emergency services. We're out serving the community, we're part of the community, we want to be at the heart of the community, and we want a workforce that represents our community, and both in the way we look, the way we behave, but also the way we think. And neurodiversity is an umbrella term that's come about to represent different conditions such as autism, ADHD, dyslexia, where these are people that think in different ways. They approach problems in different ways, they approach situations in different ways, and they can come up with really innovative solutions, work with people in different ways. And if we want true diversity, we want diversity of thought as well.